Thank you. Um, when we have this conference, we talk a lot about heart disease and just obesity and the pancreas for diabetes. And then every now and then the word thyroid or liver or adrenals gets thrown out. And most of us don't really know too much about it. And we're not that interested in it. We just don't want anything bad to happen to it. So is there anything special we need to know about taking care of our thyroid or liver or adrenals? Or is the same advice that you're giving us for everything else cover this? Or well, is there something specific we're supposed to know, like taking iodine or something specific?
Well, I think that the adrenals are critical to our stress response, and the cortisol, which is a hormone released by the adrenals, is in charge of many of our other hormones, including thyroid and sex hormones, estrogen, progesterone. So my my obsession in my practice is always about not just adrenals, but the stress response. So I do focus a lot on the adrenals, and the adrenals love nutrients. And so magnesium, vitamin C, B vitamins, just like any other organ, it needs it to and a calm stress response. So being in a parasympathetic state, having a high vagal tone helps your adrenal gland. The thyroid also is very sensitive to cortisol changes, and it's another wonderful gland. I don't think there's any gland that in the body or organ in the body that we should forget about, but each one has a major role. And I think the third organ you said was liver.
I said thyroid, liver, and
Oh,
adrenals.
liver. Liver is one of the major ones, I think. And so again, when you talk about things that are detoxifying, it is probably the most overworked organ in our whole body. It's constantly on. It's constantly trying to detoxify our thoughts, because our thoughts even relate the cortisol response. It manages our hormones, it manages our supplements and our meds and all the toxins out there. So I do think we need to respect the liver, and because of phase 1 and phase 2, which turns fat soluble things into water soluble, that's its job. And that's one of its jobs anyway. So I think that we have to respect all these organs. And the key to all of these organs is nutrients, and good quality nutrients, and a diverse amount of nutrients. And that comes from, the fiber we talked about. And I think that's the tie into everything, because even the thyroid needs selenium and iodine and vitamin D and zinc and all of these nutrients. So the key common denominator for every one of these organ functions is nutrients, and good quality nutrients. So it comes back to the gut. Everything's connected.
Thank you. Dr. Pai, any thoughts on that?
Okay, so I just was giving Ray this opportunity. So I feel like I'm always going second. I just want to change it around. So yeah, I agree. So one of the things that I mentioned in my last lecture was looking at thyroid, because a lot of people, here's another thing, right? So going with Ray's environmental issues is that we start seeing more thyroid dysfunction. Like I don't remember seeing so much thyroid dysfunction in primary care patients before. There's always a subset of people that would come in with having some hypothyroid, but now there's so many people that have thyroid dysfunction issues, and particularly the conversion of the thyroid hormones. So they have like very low T3 levels or free T3 levels, and they don't convert to T4 to T3 very well. We also see in my practice a higher rate of Hashimoto's thyroiditis. So like, the more inflammatory aspects of that. And we kind of follow those things. So in the lecture, I talked about like, these are tests that you should ask your doctor if you're having symptoms, because most people just do a screening TSH and that was it. We really want to look at if they're having some of these subclinical symptoms, or they're slightly off. There's things just naturally in the diet, like she was talking about, that can help balance these things. You don't need to have drugs for everything, or even sometimes iodine, for example. You can measure those things, but really we want to look at if someone has symptoms, we want to further define whether that's from that system or having that dysfunction. And if not, then eliminate that whole discussion altogether, because people can also spin themselves out of control. They think they're fatigued. They might think it's thyroid. It may not be. They take high dose of thyroid iodine, and after 6 milligrams, 10% flip into a Hashimoto's thyroiditis, right? So there's always this delicate balance, and a lot of people want to, again, just do a magic bullet theory with things. So we want to look at balancing. When it comes to adrenals, I agree with her. Stress response. Everybody's cortisol levels, if you test it, is going to be off on some level, unless you're not living in the United States in 2024 or the planet Earth right now. So we like to look at a lot of, aside of the techniques that she was talking about with meditation and mindfulness and exercise that he was talking about, is look, I use a lot of adaptogens. I'm a traditional Ayurvedic and Chinese medicine trained in that, adding adaptogens to help adapt and balance that cortisol level. because it's not about ignoring something. It's just a lot of people have a lot of stress. A lot of people have to take care of elderly patients, or they have 3 jobs, or they're trying to get, something's happening. So it's not stimulants that we're trying to avoid. We're trying to avoid the whole, America's running on Dunkin', Starbucks, and energy drinks, which is the wrong way of doing it. But it's how do we increase stamina, vitality, and resilience to this stress? And in terms of also just the diet and lifestyle, don't get me wrong, but there's still things I think on top of that most of us will still have unwanted stress, because if you turn on the television, or are you keeping any kind of consciousness of what's happening in America, there's going to be stress. So it's how do we get ourselves stronger, because it's going to get sometimes worse, right? You might live in a place where climate's having more of a problem, or homelessness is a problem, or the economics of rent is going up, right? So those are things that, how do we prevent someone from not being so stressed where that becomes counterproductive, where then they have more inflammation and decrease and suppression of the immune system. And lastly, liver. Yes. Again, diet's a huge factor, but there are certain nutrients that we give, and there's certain formulas that we can. So if we see liver function or liver dysfunction with their enzymes being up, AST, ALT, alkaline phosphatase, or even having glutathione and alpha lipoic levels, or other things that we look at detoxification markers that are low, then there are going to be certain things that we can provide either by diet or through lifestyle or natural therapies that will target that, because we can help improve those functions directly.
Thank you.
So
Go ahead.
So I was going to say, I'm a neurologist, so I have clear biases, but and I tend to have blinders on when I'm looking at Parkinson's disease. But the more I look at Parkinson's disease, the more I find that these toxins their effects are not limited to Parkinson's disease, or they extend to other brain diseases, and they extend to other organs. So just as an example, trichloroethylene and perchloroethylene at Camp Lejeune have been associated with increased risks of thyroid cancer, lots of thyroid disease, and TCs associated with an increased risk of liver cancer.
If I can ask a question to Ray, do you mind?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say, is there testing, because this is not my specialty, of testing for those chemicals, like a blood test or any kind of, I mean, they're not conventional, obviously. They're going to be some kind of esoteric environmental testing, but is there testing that people could do to measure those things?
So
For
there's
those
nothing
who are
that's
wearing dry clean shirts every day.
Yeah,
Not me,
so-
thankfully. No, now I feel really good that I didn't do any dry cleaning. I thought I was just lazy, but it's good.
If you have ongoing exposure, you can find it. So a study done in Italy found that 3/4 of men in Italy had trichloroethylene in their urine, just to tell you how widespread it used to be. Some pesticides are fat soluble, so you, in theory, could do a fat biopsy and look for this. So this is how they measure DDT and other chemicals. Sometimes they measure it in the milk of nursing women. And so you can see DDT and metabolites of different pesticides in the milk of nursing women, even today in different parts of the world. And obviously then that's passed on to the children, and they're developing relatively unprotected brains. These chemicals also many of them cross the placenta and expose developing fetuses to them as well.
Wow.
But there are very few people doing widespread testing, even in
Yeah.
research settings.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, because I think that's something that if there was something that was available, just like how we're testing nutrients and just like heavy metals or other toxins, that's something that would push and shift public support of getting rid of these things, because then they'll come in and have this huge amount of data saying like, hey, this is how, just like you're saying, like this is how many people every day walking off the street has these in their body, and we need to reduce that.
Agree.
If each of you could make a quick closing statement, and also how we could follow up and stay in touch with you. Dr. Pai, you want to go first?
Sure. My name is Dr. Pai. I practice integrative medicine. I'm the president and founder of Sanjevani Integrative Medicine Health and Lifestyle Center for 25 years here. I'm evidence-based. If someone wants to come see me, we do in person, and we also do telehealth. Most of my patients now are telehealth all around the country and all around the world. We're able to send the laboratory kits. We're able to send the products, and we're able to help you through evidence-based manners to get to the root cause of your dysfunction, imbalance, or disease and help restore that function. And I'm always available. I'm glad to provide a second eyes, ears, or a secondary opinion on helping you with your other providers improve your health outcomes. You can go to sanjevani.net, SANJEVANI.net, to learn more about our practice, or you can get my book, An Inflammation Nation, learn a little bit more about the 10 steps to help prevent, reverse, and treat almost all diseases naturally through diet and lifestyle and the use of natural anti-inflammatories. And you can go to sanjevanistore.com if you're interested in looking at any of our products, such as Bosmeric or anything else.
Thank you. Ray, how about you?
First of all, thanks, Steve, again, for the opportunity to be with you. I learned a lot on this. I never thought I would be a participant on The Real Truth About Health, and never thought I would learn so much about nutrition and health from different perspectives than are traditionally in the mainstream. Ordinary people like us changed the course of polio with the March of Dimes. Ordinary people, Americans like us, changed the course of drinking and driving when a mom who lost her daughter due to an accident, fallen mad, and made drinking and driving socially unacceptable. Ordinary people like us in the 1980s responded to an HIV threat and said that silence equals death, and barricaded themselves in the streets of New York, overtook the New York Stock Exchange and pharmaceutical companies because they were charging too much for their effective treatments. It's on us to change the course of Parkinson's disease and other brain diseases. I think we now know what the likely causes of these diseases are. When you have that knowledge, you have a responsibility. You also have an obligation to reciprocate from the gifts we've received from previous generations. And I can't think of a better gift that we can do as a physician than to create a world where the diseases we care for are increasingly rare instead of increasingly common. We wrote this book, Ending Parkinson's Disease, A Prescription for Action, to do exactly that. You can get it on Amazon. All the authors are donating all of our proceeds to efforts to prevent and end the disease. If you can't afford a copy, you can just email me at info@endingpd.org with your name and address, and we'll send you a copy for free. Thanks.
And if someone wants to stay in touch with you, or do you do telemedicine? Do you do consultations?
Yeah, I see patients, and I started doing telemedicine in 2007. But if they have ideas, suggestions, or stories, or they disagree or can educate me, they can just email me at info@endingpd.org.
Great. Thank you very much. And Dr. Rao?
Thanks again for having me on this. One of my passions, I've been in medicine for 30 years and working in New York after residency, I was really disillusioned by the ineffectiveness of what I had learned in medical school and residency, and acupuncture changed my world. And it showed me healing versus, putting out fires type of an approach. And in my practice, as I've cultivated over 30 years, is really my passion is to educate people and scream it from the rooftops and tell people how much control they have over their health, and talk about the lifestyle, talk about integrative medicine, and talk about the way that you can improve your health with just simple things that you can do. And that's really my passion, is to educate. And we wrote this book with the cardiologist, Dr. Monica Agarwal. We wrote a cookbook, and we wrote a Body on Fire book. And I do a lot of educational seminars, lectures, talks, teaching to help even medical students and residents to fellows to kind of learn about things that we weren't taught traditionally. But I think my mission statement is really to put the power back in the patient, put the power back in how much role you have in your future health by just kind of focusing on lifestyle, using, find providers that can help you along the way, use testing, use evidence-based medicine, but really, really, really foundationally focus on lifestyle. And that's the message that I want to give to everyone, is really there's a lot of power in you, and we're very resilient, and we can learn about things and fight this thing. And just in terms of just how to reach me is rawellness.com. I'm in Maryland. I do telehealth, but I'm only licensed in a few states, but we are happy to educate. I have webinars and podcasts, as well as other lectures on my website if anyone wants to learn. And I have a Facebook Live every other Friday.
Is this the website to find you at, the one that we just had up on the screen?
rawellness.com, yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you very much. Can we unmute the audience so they can thank you?
All right.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Good job. Thank you. Beautiful. Wonderful. All of you.
Big ones out. Small.